Hey everybody, it's Elvis. Two things real quick before we get to the episode. Number one is Saturday, June 13th, coming up this weekend. There is a Tom Hanks inspired art exhibit at Gallery 1988 here in Los Angeles. It's from 7 to 10 p.m. Me and a few other TomHanksgiving people will be there. So come check it out, say hi, it's going to be awesome. Thing number two, the Bridge of Spies trailer came out last week. Holy crap! Here with me is Colin Dunning, who's going to be on our next week episode when we talk about Cloud Atlas. But we just watched the trailer. What do you think, Colin?
To me, watching the trailer, I was like, okay, like this is not a war with guns and soldiers. This is a war of information. Like, you just summed up every Cold War movie.
I love, like, the first 2 minutes of the trailer are just building up information, and then you finally get to Tom Hanks. He's like, oh, I'm an insurance salesman. He's playing Tom Hanks.
He's like Tom Hanks.
And it's so, that's what he does best, is playing the kind of the everyman. But, he feels so much like, why'd you pick me? There's no crying in the Cold War.
The fact that you just summed it up that way makes me want to see that movie
I know.
so bad.
It sounds like, let's just throw Tom Hanks and have him solve the Cold War.
Oh, God. He's the nicest insurance salesman ever.
But
and he's going to save the Cold War.
But he's defending a spy, and it's, oh, God. No, it sounds really cool.
That was probably the one interesting part of the trailer, is, it gives that just 1 second blurb of just how it's him going to defend this Russian spy. And I'm like, that's interesting, but then it goes back to just generalities.
Yeah, it became very broad. So yeah. I'm excited that, I'm excited, new Spielberg movie.
Yep.
Or B, rather. No, A+. I'm excited it's a new Tom Hanks movie.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. Something to hold on to tide you over. But for now, that is all. Hope you liked it. Tell us what you thought of the trailer. And on to Cloud Atlas. No, Castaway. Cloud Atlas next week with Colin.
Yes.
Howdy, partner, and welcome to TomHanksgiving, the only podcast where we sink our teeth into the buffet of movies from the patron saint of cinema, Mr. Tom Hanks. I'm your host, Elvis Kunesh, and today I am joined by our special guest, that bearded mofo himself, Terry Wesley.
Hi, everybody. That's me. I am that bearded one. I am that bearded mofo.
I don't know how many foes he's mowed, but I'm going to take his word for it. So today we're going to talk about 2000's Castaway. Starring, of course, Tom Hanks, Helen Hunt, and directed by Robert Zemeckis, and written by William Broyles Jr., who collaborated with Tom Hanks before on Apollo 13, and later again with him and Zemeckis on Polar Express.
Did not know that. That is some informative stuff.
I did some research right before the show.
That's why you are the man.
Yes. So at the time, this was received very well on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got 90% positive reviews from critics, 83% positive reviews from the audiences. You've seen this film before this podcast, correct?
I have. I first saw it, it was probably back in 2000. It was around when it first came out. I don't think I saw it in theaters, but I think I saw it on video afterwards. Mm-hmm. And that's the last time I saw it before doing the research right before this podcast.
How do you remember seeing it your first time?
I just remember thinking this is going to be an experience, because at the time, Hanks was such a touted actor because he had won the 2 Oscars, and it was well, he's such a great actor. Here's a movie where it's just him.
Yes.
It's we're just going to put him on the screen and he's going to sell millions of tickets.
Is the pomp around the movie itself?
Yes.
That sounds kind of accurate. Did you remember enjoying the film?
I did enjoy it. I didn't know if I would enjoy it, because I'm it's just a guy on an island, and even though it's Tom Hanks, and Tom Hanks is great, it's just a guy on an island for 2 hours, so how am I going to enjoy it? And then I watched it, and I should have known it was Tom Hanks. Of course I'm going to enjoy it.
Of course. I don't know if you have seen the trailer at all since it came out. It spells out everything that happens in the movie. It ruins that he comes back 4 years later. They actually say that.
It's true.
It hits every note, and you've seen the movie if you've seen the trailer.
That's true. I do vaguely remember from the trailer they show that famous shot of him spearing the fish, and he's now, this caveman-esque type.
Ripped.
Yeah, just very gaunt.
Well, I guess, he's not ripped. He's fine.
Well, yeah, he lost so much weight for that role.
Yes.
We should not call him ripped. We should respect.
Director Robert Zemeckis, he said of the trailer that he had this quote where he was talking about how, based on the marketing, that's the way they showed everything in the trailer, because that's what audiences wanted. And he compared the Hollywood movie system to McDonald's. It's like, you want to know everything on the menu. You want to know exactly what you're getting, and that's what audiences like. And I feel like that is horrible. He himself said, I don't like watching trailers that way.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I don't like watching trailers, is because I feel like they too often will do that.
They spoil too much.
But that's just kind of a disdainful, like, even if it's true, such a disdainful way of viewing your audience. There's like a lot of, I mean, even though most of the entries on Rotten Tomatoes of critic reviews are positive, and including this one was mostly positive, it had this line stuck out to me from Joe Lozito, Big Picture, Big Sound. He said, "This is Mr. Zemeckis' most confident directing to date, if he only had as much faith in his audience." And going forward with our conversation, I want to keep that in mind.
Yeah, there are definitely parts of the movie that feel kind of like, I don't know, just a little too easy for the audience.
Why don't we dive in? Do you have anything else before we...
No, I'm ready to cut into this sucker.
All right, let's do it. I always like to notice the first shot and the last shot of a movie, see if that has any significance. If this movie, the first shot is of an empty crossroad in Texas, and we pan with a FedEx truck as it heads toward a ranch for delivery. Do you feel like, what does this shot say to you as we...
Gee, it's really at a crossroads. How to
Is there a metaphor in there?
Metaphor is not my strong suit at grasping at metaphors, but I would say it definitely.
Yeah. And of course, the other thing is this thing kind of becomes a big FedEx commercial in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
I really like it's probably not a GoPro because this feels like it predates GoPros, but the GoPro-like footage of the point of view of the package, especially because we don't start with a character we're going to really follow. Because we move forward and we're at Russia, as you said, and we meet Chuck Noland, our Tom Hanks character. And, okay, I wrote down just a couple snippets of how we're introduced to him. He says, "Time rules over us without mercy. We live our lives by the clock. The sin of losing track of time." There was a bit more to that, but those were the pieces I pulled out. And what do you think this character's obsessed with? What's his deal? Are we telegraphing a problem he's gonna have to face at some point in the movie?
Yeah. Mr. Chuck Nolan, Mr. Tom Hanks definitely is a lover of time, and he'll have plenty of it to deal with.
We're hitting this note hard that he is obsessed with the management of time, and to lose track of it is the worst thing that could ever happen to him, as he believes. He kind of starts off this movie a little bit like a jerk, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Well, one of the notes that I took was he's a hard ass, and you don't see Tom Hanks as a hard ass very often, and he immediately starts off as a hard ass.
He's kind of dislikable right away.
It's very rough, and especially when you're like, well, come on, you're in this community, you're in these poor Russians, and you're berating them,
shouting them
like
in a language
terrible.
They can't understand.
I think they really wanted to drive home that hard-ass toughness, too, when they tell the story of him stealing the kid's bike.
Which I love the detail of the bike, and I love the idea that this is a story that is known throughout the company, because he at least seems to be a pretty big guy in this company, or at least these circles he's in. And I love that the story, there's just this detail where it keeps changing, and like as soon it's a crippled kid he stole the bike from. I love that little detail. And there's actually a lot here. He starts off as a hard ass, and I think that's a great choice. But I like that he has this pride in his job, and he's kind of good at it. Like when they go to the truck that's stuck, it's like, all right, we're going to do it right here on the street.
He's very good at it.
And it actually reminds me, I think this is why you hire Tom Hanks, because this character is a hard ass, but Tom Hanks balances that. He's such an everyman. You like him so much.
That's true.
That you buy. I think this is why you would cast him in this role. And actually, it kind of reminded me of Woody in the first Toy Story.
That's true. Yeah, I can see the parallel there.
Woody's a taskmaster. He's kind of a jerk, but he's very good at his job, and that's why we respect him. So the next thing we go to is Helen Hunt's character.
Yes.
What was her name? Kelly.
The girlfriend
girlfriend. Yeah, certainly not a wife. Almost a fiance.
Almost.
But we get the impression right away that they've been dating for quite a long time. This is a strong relationship despite all the times he's off at work. I just really like the scene where they first actually physically meet and they hug and they do this sweet little dance. But I liked it because it was like, wow, they look like real people in this scene. Like, they certainly look movie, attractive and like, they're not bad looking, but they're like, wow, they're not polished and pretty and pristine and
as people should be who live in Tennessee. I would assume it's not Hollywood.
And that just that helped ground this reality for me. And then especially moving on to the Christmas dinner.
Oh, the dinner.
Let's talk about the dinner.
So funny.
You get the detail of when you guys getting married. It's like, oh, gee, we're hitting on that. Okay. And I want to ask you this. There's a kid who says, wait, she was married before? Mm-hmm. After we already get a detail that she had already been in a relationship. Two questions I have about this. A is the fact, is it necessary that we know or that she even was married before? Is that trying to foreshadow to us that, oh, she might remarry if he disappears? Is that necessary?
You know what? I've never really put the connection together until just now, but it might be only in the fact of, and I'll get to this later on, how quickly she does remarry.
That's true. That's true. But if she hadn't been married before, it would have been more of a betrayal. Is that kind of what are we softening the blow already? Is that what this is supposed to be?
Probably. I would say yes. And plus, maybe this is just a kid that just really likes to out people, and they just really wanted that. He's saying, wait, you've been married before? Wait, Uncle Sal killed a guy? He's probably just that kid around the Christmas table that likes to talk too much.
Right. Well, but about the kid, they say it as much in the line before the kid asks that question, but then he asks it again and he spells it out for us, and I'm wondering, that's my second part, is this just for the audience? Is again, they're not paying any attention. We have to make sure
absolutely
she was married before so that when it happens in the future, they're not shocked because a woman getting remarried? Oh my God.
I think so, absolutely. Only because you've got a crowd full of people right now who are like, where's the island?
Yes.
Get us to this island that we know is coming.
That's true.
Up.
We're getting there, and we will be getting there for you, dear listeners, too, very, very quickly. But then he gets a page, and I guess he's got to go out. It's got to be him.
It's got to be him.
On Christmas
Don't
Eve.
Understand why. Got to be him.
To deliver packages. No one else is on this plane.
With 3 pilots.
Yes,
three pilots and Tom Hanks. Got to do it.
And about 14 packages. So yeah, he leaves the dinner. Helen Hunt and him drive to the airport. He's about to get off, and they exchange Christmas gifts. And she gives him a grandfather's pocket watch.
More themes of time.
We're just hitting all. I think there's more clocks in this movie than there are in Back to the Future.
or a Salvador Dali painting.
Yes. And she gives him a gift, and it's very obviously implied that this is an engagement ring, although we don't technically see it.
Yes. He tells her to wait until New Year's to open it.
Which is he'll be back by New Year's.
And he even says the words exact, I'll be right back.
Yes, as he leaves, which everybody remembers from the trailer.
Yeah.
And then we hit the plane.
Very horror movie-like quote.
Yes.
I'll be right back.
As he walks into the darkness and is never heard from again. But then we're on our plane. This is one of my favorite sequences in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
The plane crash, there's not a lot of dialogue going on, but the sound design, especially when the plane's going down, is fantastic.
It's a lot going on there, and it's done in a way that it's a terrifying look. Mm-hmm. like you don't want to be in a plane crash, especially if it's anything like that.
No, and this is actually one of the bits where they're throwing in exposition, but I didn't feel like it was in your face. But the pilots spent a lot of time, and we're listening to him the whole time, talking about how they've gone off course.
Yes.
And that becomes very important later in the movie. And I really like that detail because it felt very natural, But then, the plane starts going down. We're hitting turbulence. The dude, one of the pilots falls, and his head cracks open.
When it falls, the plane launch. He stands up because he sees Chuck is up, and Chuck should not be up.
Yeah, but he went to get the pocket watch.
Yeah, and so the pilot's like, "Hey, Chuck," and he gets up, and the plane bumps and launches him headfirst into the ceiling. Which, as soon as I saw that, I thought, so you actually killed that actor to get that shot because it looks tragic.
They give that shot where you're looking down the nose of the plane, and you can see the lightning flashes and the ocean's coming. I thought that was terrifying.
Oh, it's absolutely horrifying. And this whole sequence, I love how he's never safe. Like, Chuck is never safe. Like, even once the plane hits, he's got the raft. He's he sets it free to go up, and it gets caught on the plane, which is now dragging him down into the ocean.
and then he gets it. He gets free, and then he's up, and then the turbine's about to eat
explode.
him, and then it explodes. Somehow he's not close enough to get killed by that. This is, I think, what Robert Zemeckis does so well, especially in this movie, is this moment-to-moment tension and this. We're just watching Tom Hanks, kind of react and try to figure things out, and it's so tense. And he's really good, he's really good, but you can see why he's great at this more silent acting too.
Yeah.
It's thrilling. The sound design again is fantastic, and I pulled out. He goes for the watch and he leaves his seat, but he's the only one who survives this crash. I have to think that because he went for the watch, that actually saved his life.
It's an interesting way to think of it.
Yeah.
Because that watch does save his life.
Yes.
In a sense.
In many, many ways. It's certainly right here. Okay, the storm is gone. Or he kind of crash lands on the raft into the island, and then he waits till morning. The sun hits him in the face. And 30 minutes in, we're at our island. The movie proper begins.
Finally. He's finally casted away.
And we're here to watch Tom Hanks just act. Pure acting.
What I noticed was a lot with the dialogue was Hank's performance. It was very much that you got a lot of that Hanks-ness that you get from a lot of stuff. Like when he's hearing the noise in the jungle at night and he's yelling, "What is that?" It's like you get that Hanks intonation that you always get through all his characters, no matter what. At some point, it's that there's no crying in baseball kind of tone to it. It's like even when the rest of the character is not like that, you'll always get at least some point in the movie where you're like, "That's Hanks."
Yes.
I love them. They're all related.
So he starts to get used to everything. He chops up his pants to make sort of shoes for his feet after they get cut up from walking on the reef. A lot of minor injuries. He grabs several FedEx packages.
Which when I first saw that, I was like, that shows this kind of guy who's so much into his businesses and his company. He's grabbing FedEx packages, where somebody like me, I'd be like, screw those packages. I'm screwed right now. So like this, I'm in a lot of trouble, and I don't care about these boxes washing up.
I kind of like that. It's a little it's not unbelievable because we know who this guy is before this, but I like that he's duty bound.
There's even a moment later where he covers them in a tarp when it's storming.
Yes,
because
you gotta
God forbid
protect.
the packages get more destroyed.
He climbs up to the top of the island. He's still searching for things, and then he sees a body, and it's one of the pilots from the crash. And he pulls the body up onto the land. He's a little grief-stricken, obviously, and he performs a burial, writes a little headstone. I like that detail. And then he takes, he sees the photograph of the guy and his sons, and I'm sure that hits home for Hanks. It's like, well, he has no children. He's got his girlfriend back home, but
right.
Will he ever have that? And this person, like, if anything, who will not make it, has it because he's dead, he's leaving behind these people, and they'll never know.
And his eulogy, the eulogy that Hanks gives, where he basically just says, "So that's it."
Yes, so good.
That's a very poignant moment and poignant thought.
And you got to think, he's at that moment, he's like, "This is going to be me very soon."
Absolutely.
And then he takes the shoes, and I really like the detail where he cuts off the toes so he can fit in the shoes. That was really smart. So we're moving forward. He's up at night taking a piss, and he sees a ship. He tries to go out, but as we've known previously, they foreshadowed with the tide coming in. It erases the first time he spells out help. So we know that happens, and then we build it again nicely here, where he tries to swim out to the boat on the raft, and the tide just pushes him back, and then he gets injured on his leg, and he's just kind of out of it.
Yeah.
And I think at this point in the movie, we've jumped ahead quite a bit because we're almost to an hour into the film. The next day, I believe, or the next sequence, he was protecting those packages very carefully, and then he's just like, "I'm over it."
Yep.
And he's ripping all of them open. What do I got?
Yeah.
We got some fun details. We got some ice skates, videotapes.
A chiffon leather dress.
Yes.
which and it's very convenient that there are a lot of these things because he ends up getting to use them all later.
Yeah, and I like how you see even the 4 years later. Oh, this is from that one thing.
Yeah.
And I love that. My favorite thing he does is when he finally just pulls off the ice skate blade and makes an axe out of it. That's so cool.
It's like that's pretty genius. And it's fortunate for Chuck that he got stranded on this island in 1995. Because if it happened today, he wouldn't have those gifts because people just send gift cards.
Yes.
So he'd be completely screwed. He's not getting the ice skates, he's not getting the dress, and he's not getting the volleyball.
No. Which, 1 hour into the film, we meet Wilson.
Finally.
He doesn't quite have a personality yet, but
it's just a bland old ball.
Bland old ball until he cuts his hand trying to make fire, and then boom, he's got a face all of a sudden, and we start talking to him. Well, let's talk about Wilson. How do you feel about Wilson?
I felt like Wilson is pretty. It was a pretty genius idea because, like I said before, that the expositional dialogue it allows for that. You don't really get too many opportunities where you can do that without it just being awful and people complaining. And here you get away with it because not only can you do it, but you get to do it in a fun kind of way because it's like this guy's clearly nuts.
Yeah, it took him a while, but he went a little overboard.
He got there. Obviously, he goes bananas. He's angry because he just injured his hand, and he tosses the ball, and that's how you get the face for Wilson. You can kind of see once he finally gets that fire going, because he's been struggling so hard to make this fire, and the fire started. He's got Wilson to talk to, and he's making that bonfire. You can start to see a little bit of him losing it.
Yes.
Because he goes into very much, I've created fire, kind of thing, and he's enjoying himself because I guess he's finally found a way to survive.
Yeah.
But you definitely start seeing that craziness seep in, and I think Wilson is definitely a part of that.
He's got the island fever. I like how it totally serves a narrative function. We need him to be able to talk because it's a long movie. We need him to get out some exposition. That he has kind of a companion that we even get a little attached to was really smart.
Yes.
And again, it's in character. It would make sense. If you were on an island, you'd probably go a little crazy.
Yeah.
And you'd want someone to talk to.
You need somebody to talk to. You can't talk to yourself in your brain all the time.
No.
It's actually better that he has a face to talk to as opposed to just talking into the ether.
Mm-hmm. Which, again, used to excellent use in this movie and Last Man on Earth. I love Wilson. And I think Tom Hanks is the kind of guy who could really pull this off. And I think his acting against the dog and Turner and Hooch was kind of like
that's true.
Good prep work for this because like it's just him in this volleyball for about half of this movie and it totally works.
It does work.
He can carry the scene. And I again, do you think there are other actors who could have played this role? Is this the most like Tom Hanks is a great actor and he can do a lot of things. This might be one of the few things that only he could do.
Yeah, I can't imagine too many other actors that I would see in a role and would buy. Like if you look at somebody like a Tom Cruise, I don't know how well I would buy it.
No, Tom Cruise, I could not see him crash land on an island and struggle with it and then talk to a volleyball.
Right.
He's crazy, but he's not crazy talking to a volleyball crazy. And you need that kind of everyman quality too, and that you get that from Tom Hanks. Like I can't think of anybody else who could have played. Like, let's think of some other movies where it's basically one actor. I know there's a lot of movies where it's two, but
you don't get a lot of them with just the one because it's so hard for one person to play that. I guess you get something like I Am Legend with Will Smith, where he spends, I guess, a good amount where it's just him. And
right. I reckon that Will Smith could definitely carry that kind, but he also has the advantage of fighting vampire monsters.
Right. So he's never really alone.
Yes. There's something happening. This movie is very, I mean, it's not that there's nothing happening, but it's very much a small little pieces in a movie. Like,
I mean, you're seeing a guy survive. You know, you're seeing one man conquer it all. It's a convenient man because he has a lot of tools in his own right that allow him to survive. Like if somebody like me was on this island, I couldn't survive. This is a guy who we see early. He has a sailing certification. Like early on when they're panning over their apartment.
Oh, did he? I missed that detail.
Yeah, they have like a little place where like there's awards on the shelf, and it's like he has a sailing certification. Which I don't know if I ever noticed that the first time around watching the movie, but I was definitely this last.
Were there two Oscars next to the awards?
Yeah, and there was a clean space waiting for the third one that never came with this movie.
Do you think he should have won another Oscar for this film?
It's hard to say. I don't remember what else was out that year.
That's true.
I definitely felt like they thought that this was Oscar worthy, because if you look at it, he won an Oscar for Philadelphia and he lost weight for that role, and this one seemed like an even bigger kind of physical.
There's certainly a huge physical transformation, which unless you're Christian Bale is exactly what they love at the Oscars.
Right.
Let's move from Philadelphia for a minute, because Robert Zemeckis worked with him on Forrest Gump, which is what he won the second Oscar for. This performance versus Forrest, what do you think is... How would you compare that? Is this one better? I mean, that one won the Oscar.
That's interesting. I would say...
Because I think this is a harder movie to do. At the same time, Forrest Gump is a hard role to sell.
Right. I think...
And he does escape into that character.
I think what helps with Forrest is the movie itself as opposed to just his performance. I think that kind of adds to it, because... It is an interesting performance because he's playing someone who's mentally not all there. Whereas with this one, while he's a guy that's competent, he has no one to act off of, so it's all riding on him. And I think that's probably what made the Forrest role stand out more was the movie as a whole, and I think that's kind of what held him back from that in Castaway, because it's literally a Tom Hanks film.
This is that Tom Hanksiest.
Yeah, so you get no more Tom Hanks than this.
Except for maybe Polar Express, because I think he plays all the characters in that movie.
He did, but that movie was too creepy for me to watch. Too creepy looking.
Well, we'll get to it at Christmas time. And we'll get more into comparing Forrest Gump and this, but I think this role might be the harder role. Because you're right, there's not other characters, there's not more story backing him up. It's just raw... human Hanks and a volleyball. And he definitely had to show a lot of emotion. There's definitely I will say that probably the best acting he did was acting with Wilson, because he has to talk to something and he has to believe that he actually thinks this is something worth talking to and this person worth talking to. And he has great lines to him. When he's cooking the crab and he says, he's glad that he's finding his crab, because he says coconut milk is a natural laxative. Yes. Things Gilligan never told us. Yes, I love that line.
So there's little bits like that is just that's pretty hard to pull that line off with nobody there.
Yes, especially because it's kind of a cheesy line.
Yeah,
but he totally nails it. It's the Tom Hanks charm. Again, this is a movie where you needed Tom Hanks, and he does well in it. Just to put this in, he knocks out his own tooth from the toothache, and another visceral moment. Like,
that is probably the most brutal thing in this movie, and he goes through a plane crash, and that is rough.
I had to put my fingers in front of my eyes for this, not the plane crash. I couldn't, and I love it, like that moment. Like again, to harp on his performance, he so sells it, like the one. Because that's what I would have to do.
Yeah.
And he's crying before it happens. I am right there with him.
As he should. I mean, I can't imagine a more... Like, I probably would have just died on that island and been like, nope, I'm going to die from tooth pain because I can't do this.
So, let's see. Let's jump ahead, as the movie does. And I hate this part. This is probably my least favorite part. It spells out 4 years later, before you see the transformation. Like, if you're going to do the subtitle spelling it out, at least let us enjoy that surprise first. And I mean, even though we've seen that shot in the trailer a million times.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. They could have done the spearfishing and shown him, and then put the 4 years.
And then pan up, and then cut to a wider shot, and then say 4 years later.
Yeah.
And if anything, you don't. I mean, if you're gonna have it, do it there. But you really don't need it, because he spends like a scene later in the cave. He's talking about, and we see how many he's got the months on there, and we see how long it's been, and he tells us how it's been 4 years.
Yes.
So we didn't. That just bothered me. It's another thing of, let's spell this out to the audience.
They do it again later.
And they do, and they didn't need it there either. But this one was worse for me, and because it's especially, it's been a long time when you see him, and this is really interesting because they halted production for a year.
Yes.
They filmed the first half of the movie where he's fat Tom Hanks, and then he started losing weight for a year, and Zemeckis took the same crew and filmed another movie, What Lies Beneath, with Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh, wow.
And I never saw that movie, but I watched the trailer this morning, and I know exactly what happens in the movie. It does the same thing. It spells everything out.
That one does pretty much spell out. I have seen that, and that one pretty much spells it out.
Anyway, so we're 4 years later. He's lost a lot of weight. He knows how to spear fish. He's kind of adjusted to island life. But this is 4 years later. Like, what's he been doing this whole time? That's kind of... We get one beat that I really, really like. But before that, we find a porta-john, a piece of a porta-john that shows up, and it's the perfect sail.
Yes.
And I like that he, especially now that we know he has a sailing degree, or what have you, a certification, he's just been searching for something, I guess, to get off this island. But
yes,
it's like, what has he been doing for 4 years?
Yeah,
Nothing.
yeah.
And why?
What has he been doing before this Deus Ex Machina porta potty sale?
I mean, I guess that's what would happen.
It is what would happen, but it's like, why? Like, what ship did this come off of? But I'll let it go because he's got to get off this island.
Yeah,
I wonder that too. What would he be doing for 4 years of talking to Wilson? It definitely, right before we cut to the 4 years later, you definitely see that he's been dabbling in painting because he's got art decor on this cave that he's now made his home, and using his own blood to paint, I suppose. So there's that, and I guess there's just surviving. He's definitely he learned how to make rope from tree bark,
which is insane. And that shot of him running it through his toes is just like, oh, painful.
Yes.
Well, let's jump ahead then to that. This beat is one of my favorite things in the movie. It's such a frightening detail. It's like, they need more rope. Oh, there's 34 more feet of rope. I'm not going back up there, Wilson. And we discover, and I love that it's visually telling us what's happening. He climbs up to the top, and he pulls this rope, and it's a noose. And in the noose, there's this, fake man made out of logs.
Wood effigy.
Yeah, wood effigy. That's perfect. And so we know he was considering committing suicide.
Yes.
And...
A year ago.
A year
ago.
But then, that's the thing. They spell it out for us. This is my least favorite conversation with Wilson. Because it's like, I tried to kill myself. And then I had to test it. It was a year ago. It's like, we don't need all of that spelled out for us, Zemeckis. We get the impression. I would have probably killed myself long ago. I wouldn't have made it a year.
Yeah, he goes a very long time. I mean, that's basically 3 years that he went before he finally decided, yep, time to go. And maybe it was because he didn't learn how to make rope until that 3 years ago.
That's possible.
There's a lot of things you can assume.
But he could have just jumped off. He probably would have died if he had jumped off the mountain.
Yeah, but it would have been so painful. He says he would have landed on the rocks below because the tree broke. So that wouldn't have worked. I often wonder, because he ends up deciding to make all this rope because he can escape now. I often wonder, why not just make rope? You've been there for 3 years or 4 years. Why not just make rope just in case you need it for something, or make it for a better? Or why not try to make a raft before then? Couldn't he have made a sail from palm branches?
It's entirely possible that he did try all that, and we just never.
That's true.
But there was no necessary expositional conversation with Wilson. Remember 2 years ago when we tried this? It didn't work.
That's true. And again, another example of how a person like me would have died, but Chuck was the perfect person to have crash landed on his island because he can sail. Also because he's a master whiz at calculations, because he calculates how much rope they'll need. He calculates how far off course they are, and that the search party will need to search an area roughly the size, twice the size of Texas.
The size. Yeah, he happens to know the square footage of Texas.
Yeah.
Despite being from Memphis.
Knows square footage of Texas, knows calculations and how far off course they were, and all this and that. So it's he was the perfect guy to get to land on his island, because if it was anybody else,
and despite the fact that I'm chiming in about how kind of catering to the audience for this, some of these lines of dialogue are, especially twice the size of Texas. But yeah, you're right. It does all fit in his character too. He knows this stuff because this is stuff he has to think about for his job. But yeah, so we jump ahead. He's built the raft. He's got everything together. There's no planes overhead.
Not a single one.
Been saving
would
him.
Have been saved.
But he's built the raft, and they leave the island. This happens. They're going. They fight against the tide, and I like this build up to the moment where the sail launches and they break through. And the whole time, he's got Wilson tied up with videotape, and I'm just like, I know he's not gonna make it at some point, but I thought it was gonna be right here.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's you get the moment before when he's arguing with Wilson and he literally kicks him out of the cave. Like, you say you kick your friend out, but he literally kicks him out. And he goes and searches for him, and that kind of sets up the even more bonding of he doesn't want to lose this ball. And so then you have an idea later on, he's going to lose his ball. Especially, they probably even played it in the trailer.
Oh, it's in the trailer.
Yes.
Oh, wait, no, actually, that's the one thing they didn't play in the trailer, because I think they played down the importance of he's going to talk to a volleyball for how long in the movie? I think they were.
That's true. I do kind of remember it being just like a spec where you saw it in the trailer, just to get a little intrigued of like, is he really talking to a ball?
Yeah, but they kind of hide that well, which I like. But yeah, as soon as that happens, where you're right, the freak out before, and he thought he lost Wilson on the island, which that must have happened so many times during these 4 years.
Yeah. Well, it's that's another thing that's funny is like when they cut to 4 years later, Hanks has all this hair, and so does Wilson now.
Yes.
He's got a little hairdo now. Because over the years, I guess the ball's probably ripped open.
Yeah, and just shove stuff in there. That's great. But yeah, it totally, it's coming that this is we're gonna lose Wilson. We didn't touch on this, but it's been 4 years. How much crazier? Because he got a little crazy when he started talking to Wilson. Yeah. How much crazier does he feel this point in the movie? Does he feel that much crazier?
I feel like he doesn't really notice his craziness. I mean, I felt like I noticed a little bit of his craziness when he finds the Porta-John wall. There's a little bit of Neanderthal behavior in his actions because he's kind of just looking at it with his head cocked, like what is this? When I guess it's really just him thinking is like, I could probably use this in the set. but he looks at it like a caveman who's seen fire for the first time in his life. He's just kind of like, and he kind of just like kicking it.
That's actually that reminds me. There's a bit of trivia about this movie. That scene specifically, they were doing an homage to the apes at the beginning of 2001 because that's Tom Hanks' favorite movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. That definitely came across.
Yes.
I felt that in that performance.
Yeah, so you're right. He definitely does get a little crazier. Not too crazy, but this is, I think, before 4 years later, we don't see like his conversations with Wilson as if Wilson's talking back, but we're definitely getting that now.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Which I guess they also wrote dialogue for Wilson just so Hanks had something to go off.
That's perfect.
So we're out on the sea. He gets through the storm, the tide, and he's out in the ocean. He's catching some fish. He sees some terrible CGI whales.
Yeah, that just stares at him like, what are you doing out here?
Yeah, and then we have the moment where Wilson fades away. He falls off in a nicely... The ship, that was the thing. The storm kind of tears off the sail and it tears apart the ship. So he wakes up...
Just twigs in the ocean at this point.
Yeah, and there's nothing left of that raft, pretty much. So Wilson just kind of falls off by the time Tom Hanks wakes up. He tries to swim out. It's...
The tether won't reach.
I don't know
too far away.
If I'm going to call this scene heartbreaking.
I remember when I watched it, I remember it being heartbreaking. The first time
I will agree. I remember it being sadder. Watching it this morning for this podcast, it didn't hit me as much. Maybe because I knew it was coming.
Yeah, I think it's because it's going away, and you also know it's just a volleyball. It's him, obviously, it felt like more because it was human, because it was somebody that he grew to love. But I think watching it upon the second time, it doesn't hit you as much in the throat.
I think this is important. Because if he had kept Wilson, I wonder, he turns around and is not crazy very quickly.
Yes.
I wonder if that was necessary for him.
He needed to lose that.
Yeah. Because that took his crazy away with him.
I think it definitely helps him, because I can imagine if he finally got rescued and he had this volleyball in his arms, people would be like, well, he's got to go to the loony bin now. It's like he's not ready to get back into society.
Because so they have a moment for Tom Hanks crying and looking very pathetic.
Very pathetic.
But appropriately, like it's all appropriate and it's all good. But it's just so pathetic.
I wonder how long it took for Tom Hanks to get used to the fact that people will be yelling Wilson at him for the rest of his life.
He's probably had things like they've been running Run Forrest Run.
Well, and that's the other question I have is like, and where does Wilson rank among the level of things that people shout on? Where does it rank along with the Houston, we have a problem?
Yes.
There's no crime.
Which one's the most quotable? Oh,
and everything from Forrest Gump.
What do you think is the most quotable quote from Tom Hanks?
Oh,
I'm gonna say the Forrest Gump stuff. I think hits the most.
I think the thing about it is like I think that stuff is more poignant because there's a whole like stupid is as stupid does. And,
Life is like a box of chocolates.
Yeah,
I started the podcast off with this in our first episode.
But I actually feel like, at least to me, the one that could probably be most quoted by most people is Houston, we have a problem, because
that's true.
There's things in your life where things go wrong and you're just gonna say that because you've got a problem, even though it's probably not as memorable as all the others, but I feel like it's probably the most quoted.
That's true, because when I say that out loud, as I do in my life, it's strangely enough, even though it's me and I run the TomHanksgiving podcast,
yes.
I don't think of Tom Hanks when I say that line.
No,
I just think of the line.
You think of the line. You think of the astronauts in trouble.
Yeah, and that was the tagline on the poster for that movie.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody says Wilson or yells out Wilson, but I do
so
feel
good.
like they do it to him. I just imagine.
Yeah,
like,
if you saw, people see Tom Hanks on the street, they yell Wilson. Is what you're thinking?
I just imagine him like on his day off, is just on a golf course about to swing, and he's just Wilson. And it's like, well, thanks, you've just ruined my hole in one.
I imagine they'd say, like, if they see him moving down the street, more people are going to say "Run, Forrest, run."
That true.
What would you say to Tom Hanks if you were going to quote something and you saw him on the street?
Oh God, what would I say to Tom Hanks? I was about to say I'd probably quote something from Philadelphia, although that could get very morbid very quickly.
I have AIDS! I know what I would do. I would just go, "You are a toy!" I couldn't help it.
That gets the 8. That gets the clap of approval on that one.
Thank you. All right. So that was fun, but let's jump ahead. We're running a little long. Let's jump ahead. We're gonna hit the end of this movie. I love this shot where he's on the raft, and we just see the giant barge behind him coming in, and it's a real shot. You know that's happening.
Yeah.
Because it takes so long for the ship to go
huge.
by, and for him to wake up and finally see it, and then the movie jumps ahead 4 weeks later.
4 weeks later.
And it says it right there, even though we don't need it. We cut immediately to seeing, he's shaved. He's got a haircut. He's wearing clothes. He's on a plane. Which dude gets on a plane again very quick?
Yeah. I guess there's really no way to get out of there. It's interesting because he's not as gaunt, or he doesn't seem as gaunt as he did when we first cut to him on the island 4 years later and he had all the hair. Because maybe it's just because he's shaved now and everything. But I mean, 4 weeks have gone by. We asked earlier what happened in the 4 years that went by. I'm wondering, what did he do in those 4 weeks?
Yeah, that 4 weeks.
That's a long time.
That was a more significant character change than the 4 years.
Yeah, and they wait 4 weeks to throw him a welcome back party. It's like, what?
I mean, probably the first week was him getting to a hospital and getting all that figured out. But yeah, 4 weeks, wow. It does take a while. Like, if this was the media nowadays, it would have happened TMZ would have been there within 4 hours.
Oh, yeah. Well, he'd have been all over. He'd have had a book deal.
There's a big to-do with the president of FedEx, and they're like, "We saved our boy," even though they didn't. And he meets... This is probably my least favorite scene. When he meets the husband.
Mr. Big.
Again, I called it out when I saw it so many years ago when it first came out. But the actual scene I don't really like. Not that it happens, but it's like the way the husband acts. I don't know. It seems so...
portrayal of the character.
Yeah, it seems
Chris
so...
North, Mr. Big from the Sex and the City show.
Maybe I just don't like Mr. Big. But
I think it's interesting. I wondered... when Chuck after the husband says, Kelly didn't want to come because it just would be too much. Mm-hmm. And then Chuck actually sees that she is there. She's outside and she's crying. And she tries to go in and her husband stops her. I wonder, is he stopping her because he feels threatened, or is he really stopping her in her own, like, does he think he's doing this in her own best interest?
I want to, I have no reason to think bad of Mr. Big outside of the fact that I don't like his scene. I don't think he would feel Oh, real quick, we skipped it over, but I love the shot where she gets the phone call.
Yeah.
And then the way we're confirmed that she's moved on is she faints, and we have a nice pan to the husband and the daughter.
And, yeah, the baby.
That's brilliant. But no, I like to believe that they drove down there with her fully intending to go talk to him, and then right before she said she couldn't, and that's why he goes in and has kind of this awkward speech. Is like, oh, I'm her husband.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he was prepared to meet this guy. I don't think he wanted to meet this guy, which is kind of why he's cold.
Yeah, I mean...
And he's like, she's going through a lot. Dude was on an island before
yeah. It's like, who's really going
I think it's hard for her.
She's like, I had crab goop drip into my mouth. She can come in and say hello to me.
Yes. No, but yeah, I didn't like the beginning of that scene, but I did like it once we saw her outside. It is a little weird that he stops her from going in, but I think it's probably more because she's a wreck and she doesn't quite know. Because once even like the few hours later, where he goes to see her in the next scene with he drives a taxi out to her house, which how does he know where she lives? I guess he has Stan maybe.
That's true. That's one thing they didn't spell out for us.
Which I guess I don't care.
Knows how to get there. Yeah, well, he goes there because he's had that party.
They had. That was right. We had another little scene.
Yeah, and he just sees all the things that he's missed that he could have used on that island, like the fire and the whatnot. But yeah, so he's lying on the ground and he's turning that light on and off just like he did on the island.
Yeah, we see that same
on her
reverse
pocket watch picture.
So
yeah, when he does go to Kelly's and she opens the door and they hug. Now, this was the first time I noticed Kelly's accent in this movie. Like, she has a drawl that I never noticed before. And part of me makes me wonder, like, did they shoot this before they shot the beginning? Or how did this happen?
This would have happened to happen after that year. So she's coming back to that character a year later.
And she's got a noticeable drawl now.
Although it's there in the first sequences, but you're right, it's much more prevalent here.
Yeah.
I think it's also just like we're spending a lot more time focusing on what she's saying. These are quieter scenes. There's not other characters and noisy planes going on around them.
Yeah.
And she has more dialogue, so I think it's more noticeable. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad drawl, but it's more noticeable here.
I think for me, I felt like it was way more noticeable, and I think that's why it struck me as like, I don't know.
Maybe if
I know you're an Oscar winner as well, but you might want to dial that back a little bit.
Go find some tornadoes.
Yeah, go find some tornadoes and
if anything, like I'm not gonna give. I don't mean to give too much credit to Zemeckis, but like maybe it's like a choice. Now she's almost a different person. She sounds different than you remember.
That's true.
That's possible. And if she has changed,
if that was his reasoning behind it, then he's a brilliant filmmaker.
Yeah, if the only thing that would have cinched it for me, and I would have been all on board, is if her husband had the same accent, but he doesn't.
Yeah, well, he's Mr. Big, so he's from New York.
Yeah. If they had done that though, that would have been perfect because he would have just adopted the way he sounds.
Yes.
I really like the scene. My favorite detail, one of my favorite in the whole movie, is just how much it punishes him is when she opens the fridge and it just shoves the picture of her life and her children's photos in his face for just that second. When he's like, what you've been up to? And it's just like right in your face. She's not thinking about it. She's getting him coffee. And I love that little bit of blocking.
It's rough coming back to all of that, and I would assume it's rough coming back to all of that and seeing the one you love moved on.
Yeah. And we get this very sweet, like, she kept the car, she was looking for him, she has a whole table filled out with all of his stuff, where she was searching, or at least following the search going on. They talk about how they moved on, they talk about some mundane things to kind of ease the conversation.
She was going to be a professor, and she didn't because everything got put on hold once his plane went down.
They throw some guilt his way, a little bit more. It comes to this moment. She gives him the keys to his old car that they kept. They had sex in it twice, apparently. They're very happy about that.
Good memories is what they say.
Yes. And I like the little detail of, he had the knife,
Swiss
the
Army
pocket
knife.
watch on his keys, and we saw that before. It's like, it's like the little things with the lighter and the crab legs. It's like, it's just like, we're throwing all these things in this character's face, just kind of beating him down. Like, isn't this ironic, buddy? Didn't your life suck there? And then he drives away. She chases after him in the rain.
In the rain, which now I've never seen The Notebook.
It's very Notebook, though.
But I feel like The Notebook stole this from them.
Yeah!
Castaway. It's like, Notebook,
Because when I watch him, like, this is almost pretty romantic. Like, I don't buy, like, I know it's a foregone conclusion, which is probably why it's actually more romantic. It's like, they can't be together, but they still love each other. At least coming from him, because she was the reason he kept going on that island.
Which he says later.
Yeah, you'll never, I believe him when he says, I love you so much more than you'll ever know.
Yes. Well, he needed her.
Yeah. And she didn't need him, even though she loved him. Like, it's no fault of her own. She wasn't trapped on an island.
I did like the way they played it in the car because he basically puts her in the car like, I'm about to take my woman away. And, and she says, Chuck, and then he knows you have to go home.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the reason why, let's have that conversation now. It's 4 years later, and it's obvious that it took that long because they needed to have the daughter of a certain age. So it was like, okay, this is a real family. She's put in roots into this family. She can't leave.
Now, I would say, and this goes back to the earlier with the kid at the Christmas table saying she was married before. I guess to me, you may need that just to give a reason for why she would be married again, because she tells Chuck at the end she always believed he was alive. Mm-hmm. I feel like the kid's a young kid. She's been married at least a year, let's say, because she has had this kid, which means she probably started dating Mr. Big, like, let's say a year before that.
Yeah.
So she's basically, even though she believed he was alive, waited 2 years to get back into another relationship. If it was me, I'd have to wait 5 years minimum.
5 years minimum?
If I really truly believed the guy was alive, it's like, I don't think that I could get over it that quickly.
Well, I mean, that's true, but I mean, when Mr. Big comes into your life, you say yes.
Plus he's a dentist.
He's a dentist, yes. I don't disbelieve that she wasn't grieving and still loved him and believed he was alive this whole time, but there's other things she wanted in her life. Maybe she really wanted to have a kid, and you can certainly love two people more than at one time, and Mr. Big was probably there comforting her, helping her keep her teeth clean. Yeah. And that's a very seducing situation.
It's a good quality to have,
I don't blame Helen Hunt at all for the choices she made. She made them quickly, but sometimes you have to move quickly to move on.
I have no problem with her moving on.
And the movie doesn't seem to judge her at all either.
No, not at all. I mean, she has to. Like,
Tom Hanks is a little whiny.
I just don't know that I really buy the whole I always believed you were alive. Maybe she really did, but it's kind of like, that's kind of something you're just saying because you moved on, and to move on you kind of have to just say they're dead. You kind of have to say they're not coming back. So there has to be that. There has to be some part of her that put him away.
Yeah, which she could be saying, and I could totally buy that she's just saying that now. The one line I don't like in the scene is actually when she says, "You're the love of my life." Maybe just because I don't like the connotations that usually has, unless it's in a romance movie when there are loves of people's lives, then I buy it. But in this movie and in real life, that's such a weird thing to say, and I don't buy it from her at all because
it's a bit much. But I think
it seems like she's saying it because this is the sort of thing you would say in a notebooky-ish thing, even though that movie didn't exist yet. But it's telling that I totally buy his line, "I love you more than you'll ever know," but I don't buy hers.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where she tells him because she does love him and she wants him to feel good. I don't know that it necessarily would make him feel better.
I think it might make him feel worse.
Oh, absolutely worse, because it's like,
especially because they get in the car and then he knows he can't take her.
Let's go dump your husband, and you can bring the rug right along, and let's hit the highway.
And we're gonna have a volleyball living with us.
Yes,
that is going to happen, non-negotiable. But they have this heartfelt goodbye. There's a lot of kissing for
Oh, wow.
for a married woman. But
Yeah.
that's I would almost like if I was Mr. Big, I'd have to give her a pass for that.
Yeah, well, I often wonder, like, where is he at this moment? Is he asleep in bed, Mr. Big?
He's up
or
there
is
and
he
he's
watching?
like listening.
Is he?
What are you doing?
Is he looking down and
He's polishing his rifle.
he's like, that Forrest Gump bastard?
You better run, Forrest. No. But yeah, no. If I was the husband, I would definitely give her a pass for this night. For those kisses,
But never again. You can never see him again.
Not without me getting a pass. Or
Yeah,
something.
it's like
Come on.
I get to go see Carrie from Sex and the City.
Yes. Yeah, you gotta. Yeah. That's perfect. So then we cut again to this kind of final sequence. No. There's two little bits. There's the scene where he's talking to Stan. The last time we see Stan.
Semi-circle shot.
Yeah, and he talks about how he was going to commit suicide on the island. And again, we're spelling out exactly what happened. But this time I like it. And when I was watching this speech, because I'm usually not a big fan of speeches that summarize everything, but when I was watching this, I was like, what's the speech trying to say? Like, is there a greater metaphor here? And I was trying to think, is this movie trying to convey the experience of depression?
Yes, I believe so. I think it's about life in general. It's about you have to move on. Like you obstacles come, but it's your job to keep moving on. And even like he summarizes at the end, he's like, who knows what the tide could bring in? Because literally the tide brought in his saving.
Yes, that's true.
Which he painted the angel wings on. And I think that's what it was about. I felt like it was very poignant because he talks about how he's so sad that he doesn't have Kelly now, but he's so grateful that he had her on that island.
Yes.
Because without her, he wouldn't be here without that pocket watch.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, what do people mean so much to you, even when they're not the actual people that exist anymore? Like the memories of the people you'll keep after the people from school or from your hometown or something, or people who have passed on. You'll keep them with you, and they'll be even though if they're not those actual people anymore, they still mean a lot to you. They can still define who you are.
And Stan says nothing in this scene, so he's practically Wilson all over.
Yeah, so he's getting ready for buying that new volleyball. Watching that speech and seeing it kind of contextualize the whole movie as a greater metaphor. I definitely saw it as someone who was depressed, couldn't get out of their own funk, and it was just kind of up to them to keep breathing. And it takes time, and there's not really an answer. Sometimes you just need a porta-john to fly your way.
You just need that day of
and
sex,
then you got to take it. And so for that, I kind of forgive. I don't want to say I hated the movie, or like I was detrimental to the movie for that aspect of the porta-john coming in or what have you, but I forgive the more mechanic, the Deus Ex Machina style of the movie.
One thing I will say also about that scene is if you take it out of the movie with him giving that speech, you really don't change the movie at all. It's kind of like though that scene was in there to be a message for people, like keep moving on, don't give up hope. Because we know what this movie is about. We know that she was what kept him moving on that island, and if you take that out, you still get that sense.
That's true, but maybe now I'm being hypocritical because I like this scene, and if there's going to be a point in your movie where you spell it out, I feel like it's the end, and it's about what your movie's about, because that's the thing you don't want the audience to miss. So I don't mind this speech, but you're right. Stan's just sitting there. He's not. It's just a speech to the audience.
Yeah. It's well done.
But I think it's well done. Hanks sells it, and I think because it recontextualizes the movie, not that it wasn't about that before, but it's like, here it is. And again, I'm very forgiving when it's at the end of a movie, and it's like, here's what you should take away. I like that.
Yeah.
Then we get this last little scene where he delivers the package, which gives me it kind of goes back on that central metaphor we were talking about earlier, where it's like, it's not about the packages, the life goes on. And yet FedEx still delivers the package.
Yeah, he's still
he's still
got that one.
Yeah,
he's gonna take it upon himself. Like I may not even work at FedEx anymore because that's what I'm like. Is he still working for them or is he like done now? Because he's all the way in Texas.
He's not driving a FedEx truck. Yeah,
he's driving his own car. He's got a new volleyball at his side.
I figure they have to give him some sort of pension at least.
Oh yeah, he's got to get something. I mean, they nearly killed him. They crashed the plane.
Life insurance must be through the roof. Maybe he's rich now.
He's got to be.
And he only bought one volleyball.
Where's that book deal?
Yes, and someone's going to have a book deal for him. That's perfect. But he delivers the package to the ranch we saw at the beginning. So we've returned to the crossroads from the very first shot. We're getting very cyclical. And then he drives to the literal crossroads.
Yes.
And this is where it's like, this is getting a little heavy-handed, Mr. Zemeckis. He's out there. He gets out of the car, and he's like, which way do I go? And then the woman from the ranch, Bettina, drives up, and she's this gorgeous redheaded woman with a dog. And it's like, this is what I want when I come out of depression. I want a gorgeous redhead with a dog to come and tell me where to go. And it's almost like, is there flirting going on here? Are they trying to say? Oh, there's another Helen Hunt out there for him.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, she literally tells him, which way each road goes.
Yeah.
The different crossroads he can take. So.
And then she drives away, and we close on a close-up of Tom Hanks smiling in the crossroads.
Yeah. Looking back toward her direction.
Yes.
So it's like, is
Yeah.
this the way the wind is going to take her?
So that's Castaway.
That is Castaway.
What do you think? How do you feel about Castaway as a movie? Do you enjoy it?
I do enjoy it. I think it's a good movie. I think even despite some of the moments where they beat you over the head with things or where they spell it out to you, I think regardless of that, I think that's the way some movies have to be for certain audiences. Mm-hmm. And I think it's one of those things where you don't really get a whole lot of these kind of movies nowadays. You got them in the 90s and you got them in 2000 when this came out, but other than something like maybe 127 hours, you're not going to get too many movies where one actor can carry the scene and you just explore this life.
This character, this person. It's a big, and it was a big movie in the day, and it's a great movie. Yeah, I really like it too. It's weird every time I mean, it's only been twice now, but every time before I'm gonna watch it, I'm like, do I really want to watch this? And especially the second time now, being a huge Tom Hanks fan, going to watch just a movie that's just Tom Hanks, but at the same time, like it's just a dude on an island. It's gonna take so long, and it's. You feel the length, but I feel like it's a necessary length.
Yeah, well, the island bits kind of flow. The
island is the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Like I'm okay with the setup. The ending of the movie actually kind of is like where it's like, all right, this is feeling weird again because he's not crazy anymore.
Right.
All this stuff is a little odd. But yeah, no, the island sequences, like you could even almost just make that the movie and cut out the rest of it, and it might be. I don't know if it would be more well accepted, but it might be a stronger, more interesting piece.
Well, it's definitely the part that everybody wants to see.
Yeah.
They want to see that part.
I think I might like the plane crash sequence even more.
The plane crash is great. I mean, I actually wondered before when he had the Band-Aid on his thumb, I'm like, why is it, where does that Band-Aid come from? And he's looking at it and boom.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I love the detail there. There's a lot of... And just between this and Big, so far there's been a lot of movies where Tom Hanks looks at himself in the mirror before something crazy happens. I like that. What works for me in this movie so much is the tension, the moment-to-moment on the island in the plane sequence. The stuff where there's not human characters involved besides Tom Hanks works really well for me. Not that the stuff with the other humans doesn't work, but that's where we usually get this spelling it out, being a little condescending to the audience, reminding them of important details, or just generally talking down. And that's my least favorite parts. But yeah, on the whole, this is a very strong movie. It's got to be one of his top performances because it's just him.
Yeah.
He carries this whole movie. Yeah, every time I do see it, I'm glad I watched it. So do you feel like this was a McDonald's hamburger? To go back to Zemeckis' description about the trailer of the film?
A McDonald's hamburger. I think.
I know I'm a little hungry for a M'Donald's hamburger right now.
How could you not be at all times? I definitely. I think it's a bit of a Big Mac. It's got layers to it. So I think. I definitely think it's one of those things that, like I said, you kind of feed to the audience. But I feel like the trailer is more a McDonald's sandwich.
The trailer's the worst part about this movie, except for the 4 years later. That's the worst part of the movie.
4 years later and 4 weeks later. A lot of fours.
Yeah. No, it's a strong movie. I don't, we're just beginning this TomHanksgiving run, so I don't know if it's going to be it might be the strongest performance, but is it going to be one of the better movies he's in?
Where does it rank? I feel like I feel like it's one of his more memorable roles. Definitely.
Certainly a memorable
It's
role.
like when you ask somebody to name Tom Hanks movies, I feel like it's going to be one of the first 3 or 4 that they name.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on Castaway or Tom Hanks in general, Terry?
Tom Hanks is a god. He's a god among gods.
He's a god among gods. Wow, I'm going to keep that. We'll put that in all the outros, I think. So that's Castaway. That's it for this week. Thank you so much for being here, Terry. Next week, we're going to be covering Cloud Atlas, the more controversial Tom Hanks film. And actually, this is the first one that we'll be doing that I have yet to see.
I haven't either.
Well, we'll be watching it for next week. And you can find that online. Google Play has it for $2.99. There's other places you can find it. I'm sure you can Redbox it. It's not on Netflix, but it's definitely something you should seek out because a lot of people don't like this movie, but a lot of people do. It's very divisive, so I'm very excited to talk about it. But we'll be doing that next week. Again, thank you for listening. If you have any questions for us, you can write to us at tomhankspod@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at tomhankspod. I'm on Twitter at Elvis Kunesh. Terry?
I am on Twitter at T.L. Wesley. It's no big, whoop-de-doo name. But you can also follow some of my blogs at ThatBeardedMofo.com.
Don't forget to visit ThatBeardedMofo.com. And check out short films that I've done and Terry has been involved
Very funny
with
stuff. Very
at
good movie.
utterentertainment.com, our umbrella site. And don't forget to subscribe, rate us on iTunes, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think of this podcast. What did you think of Castaway? Was it Tom Hanks' strongest role? Would you pick this over Forrest Gump? Would you pick something else? And of course, let us know what you think, what you're expecting for Cloud Atlas. Thank you so much for listening, everybody, and we will see you next week. Is there any good quotes to end on?
Wilson!
Tom Hanks, we fell in love with you, Tom Hanks, just like so many do deeply, because you made us smile, and your great on-screen style. So that's why we give thanks, 'cause you got a friend in Tom Hanks, Tom Hanks, Tom Hanks. Wilson!